So we're on our 9th tutorial here covering verbs. It's a beautiful Monday morning. Just got back from a great weekend. Was playing some frisbee. Playing, of course, is leading into our verbs tutorial. Playing being the verb, right? Right, Josh?
Incorrect.
Incorrect?
Incorrect, David. As always.
That's not the verb?
No, let's learn why.
Okay.
Let's dive into it. Now, we know verbs as action words, right? And though that's partly true, it's not always the case. For example, let's say he felt tired. Felt is your verb here, but is that really an action to feel? It's a feeling, right? So what verbs do is they express the action, condition, or state of being, like in the example we just looked at. To feel is a state of being. So they explain the action, condition, or state of being in a sentence. Keep in mind, though, that verbs are very often made up of more than one word. For example, we could say, next year, Dragos will have been living in Canada for 15 years. Now, our verb here is will have been living. It's a long one. It's about as long as it gets, but keep in mind that verbs can often be made up in more than one word. So let's learn and look at what a verb can include. It can have some form of have, be, or do. It can have can, may, should, or in the example we looked at, will have been living, will. There can be a root verb, like study. Think of a root verb as just the simplest form of the verb, like the roots of a tree that the rest of the verbs spring from. So from study, you can have studying, studied, to study, and so on. So study, the simplest form, the root verb. We can also have a present participle, like studying, or a past participle, like studied. And we'll be talking more about participles even in this tutorial, and especially in our next tutorial when we talk about verbals. But keep in mind the role that they play with certain verb tenses. So how do we know? Well, this all depends on the tense. Now, tense is a category that lets you know when the situation is taking place. It locates the situation in time. So let's look at our present tense here. We have simple present. Now, the way to form simple present, which expresses events or situations that exist always, and the way to form it is just your root verb. Tom drives poorly, or where drives is your verb here. Or for example, I might say I play basketball every night. Play here is your verb. So it's easy to remember. Present tense. It's just a simple form of the verb. Now we also have present perfect. This tense indicates that something happened at some recent time in the past, or that something begun in the past continues to affect the present time. So it's present perfect. Now to form the present perfect, we take the helping verb, which is the present tense of, for example, have, and we add the past participle. So it's simple present plus the past participle. So for example, you might say, I have had enough. Now, have had is your verb here. And you can see the way it's been formed is with the present tense of have, and the past participle is had here. So I have had enough.
Should probably post this as well to kind of help them understand.
We skipped that one. All right.
Yeah, we did.
So take a look at that. So the helping verb, present tense of have, and your past participle. I have had enough. Or they have already watched that movie. Where have watched is your verb here. Have is your present tense there. Double underline, yeah. And watched is your past participle. Just keep in mind the past participle part, the fact that it joins up with the helping verb to form some of these tenses, but we'll learn more about what exactly participles are and how they're used in our next tutorial. So let's move on to our past tense. So, like our present tense, we have simple past, like our simple present last time, which indicates that something happened in the past. Simple enough, right? For example, Tom drove to the store yesterday. Or I played basketball last night. So, drove and played are our verbs here, as opposed to drives and play, which was our examples in the present tense. So let's move on. Let's look at past perfect now. Same way we had simple present and present perfect, we have simple past and past perfect. Past perfect indicates an action or condition that's completed before something else occurred in the past. So this is just like present perfect, except we take the past tense of have and add the past participle. So, for example, we might say, he had not finished his dinner when his plate was taken away. So had finished is here our verb. You can see we have our past tense of have instead of our present tense of have like we had in present perfect, and the past participle. Keep that in mind. So we have one more tense to look at, which is our future tense, of course. So let's look at simple future. Now, simple future indicates that something will happen at some point in the future. And the hint here is that will happen here is our in the future tense. So simple future always takes the helping verb of will in front of the root verb. So it's a lot like simple present, except it has will in front of it. Always will. It is our helping verb. For example, we might write, I will text you. So will text is our verb here. This is indicating that something will happen in the future. I will text you in the future. Keep in mind the helping verb will here, always there. And now we have our future perfect. Perhaps our more complicated because it's so long. The example we first looked at, which was Dragos will have been living in Canada for 15 years, was in our future perfect. So future perfect indicates that some action will be completed in the future, often before some other event occurs. In our example, we said next year, Dragos will have been living in Canada for 15 years. So some action will be completed next year. So how do we form the future perfect? Well, we have the helping verb of will, our present tense of, for example, have, present tense of the root verb, and our past participle. So, for example, I will have texted you the address by the time you leave. Will have texted is our verb here. We have our helping verb, we have our present tense, and we have our past participle. And now that we've talked about participles, we're going to look and talk about that more in our next tutorial, which will be on verbals.
Let's go ahead and do that. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you guys.
If you have any questions regarding accounting or any other material within our videos, you can tweet us at Notepirate. You can like us on Facebook to receive updates or to share any quick anecdotes about how our videos might have helped. And like always, thanks for watching us on YouTube.